What if the most sought-after perfume in Spain was actually never just a perfume at all? Because in the Spanish court, scent was not a small detail. It was power, it was cleanliness, it was status, and it was hidden in places most people didn't notice. But the real story begins long before the perfume is bottled. After watching this video, you will learn what the Spanish emperor risked for a scent, even sacrificing his navy, and you will learn all the details right here. When we say royal perfume, a luxury bottle comes to mind. But in the Spanish royal world, scent was often in the form of scented waters, oils, and distilled mixtures. The palace used this for the king's rooms, for the family, and to create an appearance of elegance. And this changes everything, because we are not talking about a single scent here, but a scent system. Within this scent system, there were many mixtures, and obtaining these mixtures was not easy at all. This is exactly where the real secret begins. The Spanish court did not want to smell good, because smelling good was not their main goal. The main goal was to produce an invisible power that would change everyone's behavior the moment a person entered the room. And for this, they developed a method so profound that, even today, many luxury perfume brands use the very same principle. But to understand how that formula works, we first need to go behind the palace doors. Spain was not just its own borders, it was the crossroads of the world's darkest secrets and brightest science. The ancient masters of distillation, left over from the Muslims, were hiding such a technique in the depths of Andalusia that when the Spanish royalty used scent, they weren't just trying to smell nice. They were wielding a prestige technology that had already traveled across continents and brought kings to their knees as a weapon. But how can a scent turn into a weapon? Because when a scent is sealed with power, people will risk everything to obtain it. Kings were ready to empty their treasuries for just a single drop. What they sought wasn't perfume. It was the right atmosphere, the right mystery, and absolute obedience. In the Spanish court, this pursuit turned from a trend into a dangerous obsession. An obsession so intense that what happened in the underground chambers of the palace is chilling even today. The secret distillation houses of the Aranjuez Palace. This place operated only during the spring months, at midnight. The workers did not speak, because what was being produced wasn't an ordinary perfume, but the liquid state of divinity. As the soul of the flowers was extracted, the palace wasn't just producing a scent, it was designing a spell that would control time, space, and the minds of men. The sweat poured by the kings to obtain this liquid was proof not of luxury, but of an obsession with absolute control. But against whom was this control directed? Inside the palace, beneath the innocent facade of those enchanting essences released into the air, lay a dark intention. Royal chambers, corridors, and secret passages were constantly fumigated. This meant drawing the borders of the kingdom, not with a sword, but with a scent. When people stepped into the palace, they didn't just see the king. They inhaled his authority into their lungs. Obedience became as natural as breathing. But what truly terrified the kings wasn't external enemies or peasant uprisings. What terrified them was an invisible enemy. Think about it. The walls, those cold, empty spaces between rooms, they were all washed with special mixtures at regular intervals. This scent system was building a psychological wall. Anyone approaching the king's chamber would feel that weight on their shoulders and bow down before they even spoke. They didn't just see power, they were subjected to it. But what if this scent was designed to keep not just people, but death itself at bay? Here lies the second and darkest secret. Spanish perfume culture wasn't just for elegance, it was armor. At that time, scent was believed to be the only shield against the diseases, the plague, and the bad air ravaging Europe. The line between beauty and survival was completely erased. A king needed these mixtures not just to look magnificent, but to survive. So, what was the thing that suppressed the stench of death. This is why scent was priceless. This royal scent screamed this message to the world. I am free of disease. I am protected. I am superior to you, to the mortals. This belief ran so deep that how far would a king go to obtain this sacred liquid he believed would keep illnesses away from him? How much blood would he shed? The answer is much more ruthless than you think. Very far, far enough to even risk an entire armada. In Spain, perfumery was intertwined with forbidden alchemy and medicine. The nobility guarded secret recipes like state secrets, transmitting them to each other in codes. This sought-after perfume wasn't a liquid. It was the very essence of survival and power itself. So what prices were paid beyond the borders of the kingdom to protect this secret? That formula Spain sought transcended borders. Scent turned into a legend, chased by the most dangerous spies between Christian Europe and the Islamic world. Ships full of gold were spent for it. Caravans disappeared. Diplomatic crises erupted. Spain sacrificed entire fleets just to control the trade routes of these ingredients. Blood was spilled for a single drop of essence at the end of this savage trade. How did the fate of Europe change? This quest changed Europe irreversibly. This scent obsession of the Spanish royalty transformed the use of scent from a private luxury into the official language of empires globally. Kings no longer fought just with their armies, but with that inaccessible cloud of scent they projected around themselves. A global war of prestige had begun. But in this war, scent wasn't just a shield. It was also a weapon. How? That thing the Spanish royal world was searching for never fit into a single bottle. It was the formula for conquering space, clouding minds, and carving authority into the human subconscious. This was more than a simple cosmetic product. It was a psychological manipulation, as effective as a weapon of mass destruction. A way to defeat the enemy without drawing a sword had been found. But how exactly did they hit the target? The mystery was so deep that no one knew exactly what the original recipe was. Was that mind-numbing substance a distilled plant extract? Was it musk, triggering an animalistic instinct? Or were they all vaporized at a specific heat to alter the victim's mood? History shows us the alchemists' workshops and the bloody trade routes, but the true formula remained in the dark. Why did they intentionally hide it? Because if the formula were revealed, the spell would be broken. No matter how deep you go, you realize that the Spanish court wasn't just looking for a perfume. They were actually constructing a royal identity, the scent of distance, inaccessibility, and absolute control. There were those who tried to imitate it, but they never achieved the original, because the real issue wasn't the liquid itself, but the fearful respect it created. What was the ritual that kept this respect alive? In this theater of scent, everything was a stage prop. Silk fabrics, giant wooden doors, the king's garments, and even the stone walls of the palace. Everything had to be washed with this scent to absorb this power. Body and space merged, breathing out authority like a colossal organism. Scent was the state itself. But what happened when the state lost this power? Or how did this scent accelerate the collapse of an entire empire? Today, when people search for that mysterious perfume sought by the Spanish emperor, they miss the actual truth. That empire was seeking a divine illusion of immortality, the invisible language of the palace. It was the scent of absolute order and a war waged against decay, a scent of authority so profound that every ambassador exposed to it felt defeated upon leaving the palace. When did this mind-capturing illusion begin to crack? Because empires don't survive on swords and laws alone. They live on that flawless symbol in minds, on ceremony, and on atmosphere. But when that scent atmosphere weakens, it is revealed that kings are actually mortal, sweating and decaying humans. Spain seemed invincible as long as it held on to this scent. However, constantly producing such a powerful weapon placed a crushing burden on the state. How was this internal decay hidden? Scent was the palace's most powerful tool for hiding the decay, feeling intimate yet entirely public, invisible but never forgotten, like a mild but deeply political poison. This precise balance is what made that scent a legend worth fighting wars over. It presented a collapsing economy, sickly kings and internal chaos as flawless divinity to the outside world. But when would the mask fall? This is exactly why the real story is so staggering. The Spanish royal world was seeking a massive illusion that made power feel elegant and invincible. To keep this illusion alive, they exploited lands on the other side of the world. What they were looking for wasn't just a perfume. It was an effort by an empire on which the sun never sets, to hide its setting sun. The royal atmosphere was, in fact, a struggle for life and death. The answer is hidden right within this tragedy. What the Spanish court was looking for was not a bottle, but a time machine, to freeze their fading prestige, authority, and purity. They took refuge in scent to avoid losing the feeling of power. Scent couldn't be ordinary, because what it represented was the fate of the empire. What form did that ultimate mixture, which determined this fate, take in its final moments? The question still echoes on the dusty shelves of history. Exactly which mixture made this illusion so flawless? While it's hard to say for sure today, the traces emanating from distillation houses, alchemists' notes, and the recipes of those aromatic waters bonded by blood to power provide us with a dark map. The treasure at the end of the map is much more organic than you'd expect. Where were those secrets that made this scent invincible? Hidden. And this is why this video breaks the mold. That thing Spain was looking for is the 500-year-old proof of how you can hack human psychology with scent. Perfume was not for beauty. It was a colossal palace weapon invented to infiltrate the mind, bring people to their knees, and leave an indelible mark for generations. And this weapon left its mark using ingredients you would never expect. Those ingredients were not plucked from an ordinary garden, but torn from the heart of the world. The massive walls of the palace, the heavy velvet fabrics, and the bodies of the nobles. They were all the arsenal of this psychological warfare. Power had to have a scent, but it had to softly captivate the enemy without frightening them. It had to be a scent befitting an empire, so that whoever opposed it would doubt their own sanity. To create this flawless manipulation, they had to use nature's rarest, and sometimes most disturbing secrets. So, what truly lay within the formula? Although we can't replicate that exact formula in a laboratory today, we can clearly see the bloody and magnificent trail it left behind. This wasn't a floral water. It was a mixture looted from different continents, a mixture for which lives were sacrificed. The palace culture built around it protected this secret recipe like a religion. The pieces of that secret weapon, which lies at the core of this magnificent, terrifying, and seductive authority, are finally coming to light. Are you ready? Because an empire isn't built merely on the clashing of swords. It is built in a person's most vulnerable place, in their senses, in their subconscious, and in every breath they take. Spain used scent to control breath, which is humanity's weakest point. And while forming this absolute control mechanism, there were very clear, very specific ingredients on the alchemists' tables, for which a heavy price was paid. What were these secret ingredients that kept this empire standing? The main ingredients of that flawless royal weapon, that is, this scent system, were no ordinary things. In the first layer, there was pure rose water inherited from Andalusia, obtained in just a single drop from tons of petals, and distilled bitter orange blossom extracts to add depth. Musk brought from the mysterious mountains of Asia, worth more than its weight in gold, and ambergris, the dark secret of the oceans, were used. But the truly staggering part was the civet, brought from the depths of Africa. which added that animalistic, subjugating authority to this elegant scent. These weren't just ingredients, they were insignias of dominance gathered from the four corners of the globe. So, how did these ingredients shape the future? This is why, when we look at the history of scent, we see not just luxury, but how an empire read minds, how it trapped its power in a scent, and how it left a message for centuries to come. What Spain sought everywhere was not a single bottle of perfume, but a colossal psycho-political system that rendered power elegant and immortal. Rosewater, amber, musk, and a ritual kneaded with blood. It was much more than a bottle. It was the very embodiment of that ancient empire, which even today luxury brands try to replicate, holding humanity captive through its very breath.